Yeah, fine.
We cannot hear you. You need to enable your microphone. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm a novice at this.
Okay,
No problem.
Now we can
It's
hear
my
you.
first live interview.
Hi, Steven.
We're starting at 10 still, is that right?
We're starting now.
No.
You are on air. You're right on time. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Steven, for joining us today. I'm very happy to make an interview with you, and I hope you're doing fine.
Doing great, thanks, and thanks for having me on.
On occasion of the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow in this year, we actually wanted to talk about FABI, formerly named AVRI. But you told me that you have not such good news about it. What's going on there?
So first of all, thank you to DOAG for its support for AVRI over the last few years. It's been really great and much appreciated. So it started out as FABI, for all of beautiful Earth. We rebranded to AVRI, as in every action we take matters in every possible way. And we've certainly had a number of users. We got great feedback in the app. It seemed to be one of those apps where everybody loves it, but not enough people wanted to actually use it. So it's still out there. You can go to everyapp.org. You can find the app in your Android store and install it and use it on your phone. It's a great PWA. It's really quite a technical achievement from the standpoint of Apex. But we couldn't get enough people who wanted to spend time tracking their behaviors, changing their behaviors through the app. So it's there. In fact, the highest number of users these days are in Germany, because Niels de Bruyne actually asked us to enhance several things in the app to support language-specific or country-specific activity. Hopefully it'll take off in Germany and we'll resurrect the project. Right now, though, it's pretty much on the QT. So my takeaway from that experience, just briefly, and I know we a lot we can talk about in 10 minutes, is that lots of people are worried about climate change. Unfortunately, the leadership of our nation's leadership in general is totally failing us. But specifically, one of the ways they're failing us is they're not telling us that we all have to change. Politically, that's not feasible these days. Politically, for Biden to say, you've got to stop, doing whatever you want, whenever you want, blah, blah, blah. Forget it, not reelected, and so on and so we have this incredible barrier to people being led by their leaders to change the way they live in the world, because we can get all the electric cars we want, we can move to renewables, but if the amount humans consume doesn't change, it's not going to matter, because it's still a finite planet, even though we got a lot of sun coming in. So it's up to each of us, forget about the apps, forget about the technology. Technology is not going to save us. Only we can save us and the thousands and thousands of species that we are driving extinct forever. So that, to us, it's like every one of us, it's very simple. Reduce your consumption as much as possible. Do the least amount of harm when you do consume. Minimize single-use plastic, reuse plastic, etc. And we can have an enormous impact.
I hope that we will realize that we need to do something. All of us need to do that. And yes, you're right. It's not about the technology. It's not about the app AVRI. But every time I thought it was a great project, and I hope that it will growing up in future. And maybe somewhere out there, a marketing company is listening here, our interview, and maybe they should, or maybe they really help AVRI to make it as a known app for everyone in the world.
That would be great.
I really hope that. But I also heard you have another project called Apex D2D. What is about that?
I used to have a little card. I need to put it back up on my monitor that says no new projects. I seem to be just absolutely obsessed with coming up with new ideas and trying to make them work, which obviously has a good side. So I initially came up with the idea for Apex D2D. It's actually a broad consortium of groups now working on it. But here's the idea, and I think it's so relevant to climate change and to DOAG. I think another way in which we are clearly not accepting the fact that it's code red for humanity and all those other species that we really have to change is that we continue to do business as usual across the world. Now, the pandemic disrupted business as usual, but we're trying to get back to it. And one of the ways we're trying to get back to it is let's have big conferences. And I got to say, I'm sorry, Doug, you got me on your program, but international conferences make no more sense in our world. Specifically, I believe that we should never have international people flying to conferences to present. I think conferences should be local, regional. If you can take a train or a bus or an electric car to your conference, cool. But the idea that we fly all over the world to present our knowledge when we can do this instead, very bad idea. So the point is that even before the pandemic, I was kind of searching for alternatives to people traveling to conferences. With the pandemic, it became even more important. And my idea, originally raised with some folks at Oracle, but we were never able to gain traction, is an online clinic, essentially a real office hours. Steven says, I'm available today from 10 to 11 o'clock. If anybody needs help, knock on my door, come on in, we'll sit down, we'll look at your code, we'll fix your problem, get you going. So, and wouldn't it be nice to have that kind of online direct connection between people? Everybody's getting burned out on Zooms and webinars and this and that because they miss that connection. And we're always going to miss that connection on a virtual environment, but we can get as close as we can. So Apex D2D, developer to developer, is an initiative by INSOM, FOEX, MTAG, and United Codes, all really well-established Apex consultancies working together to provide a free site where developers can sign up as helpers. I want to help other people. And it could be because you're a world expert. It could be just because you're good at one little thing in Apex, like I'm super good at interactive grids. You can go to the site, sign up as a helper, indicate the topics you want to help with, indicate the time slots on November 30th. We're starting it off in just about 10 days from now. And then other developers can come and grab a session, reserve a session. And then on November 30th, you'll join the session with that person. You'll show your code. You'll talk about your problem. You'll get that help from that individual. So that's the idea. It's a brand new idea for us, certainly. So we are scrambling like crazy to finish the app. If we weren't building this site in Apex, you can forget it. We're building this stuff over like a 6-week period with volunteer labor. They are really great folks. So starting next week, November 23rd, developers will be able to sign on and reserve sessions with experts. We have, at this point, close to 100 people who have signed up as helpers and provided their time slots and their bios and all that, including 25 members of the Oracle Apex team. It's so cool. You're going to be able to grab a session with Shakib or Karsten or any number of other folks on that day, and of course, many others like myself. So that's the idea. I'm hoping that it's a big success and it'll turn into a 24/7 operation. You'll be able to go on, Ronny, and say, you know what, every Monday at 9 a.m., I've got an hour free. If somebody needs help on any of these topics, let me know.
I also registered there today. And I also will add there some schedules where people can ask me maybe about plugins or Apex and so on. And I think it's really cool because I also love to support people out there and yes, to do it in a direct way.
Great. So yeah, so I'm hoping it works out. It's a new thing. We are just very quickly scrambling, sending emails out to folks to complete their accounts, their registration. So we'll see how it goes, but I appreciate you asking about it. Folks, go to apexd2d.net. Simple as that. And you can sign up to be a helper. And by the way, one of the ways of helping is not necessarily solving a problem, but code reviewing. So even if you're not an expert in anything, you can say, I'd love to look at other people's code, and it's always good to have other eyes on your code. So you can sign up and do code reviews. All sorts of ways to contribute. It's a great way, I think, to show how giving the Apex and Oracle database developer community is.
I think it's a really cool idea, and I hope that most of the Apex developers in the world will know it in the next few weeks, and also the database developers, because you just can also connect for database problems. It's not just about Apex.
Absolutely.
It's just a name. The core is developer to developer. Yep. And maybe in a few months, developers can talk about other things like ORDs or Java and so on, right? Because it can really expand, so no problem.
That's right.
It's cool that there are people like you out there that always have new ideas to making the world better, and that guys like you put so much energy behind that. And even when a project is not working so good, you don't put your head in the sand. You go further. And yes, you put more energy than ever before. So it's really great that guys like you exist in this world. And that makes me personal optimistic that we can skip climate change. Because when there must be so many people out there that just need to go on with climate protection. And when we hello Scott.
Hey Scott.
I have a next interview directly with Scott after I talk with you,
I'm going to
Stephen.
say some really interesting things about Scott, but I guess I'll hold off. All right, fine.
Scott, can you hear us? We cannot hear you.
What?
You need to enable your microphone. Sorry.
He was being polite. It's not his session. Why is
it was working during the chat. Oh boy, hang on 1 second.
Now we can hear you.
Okay. It was working during the
online.
pre-conference.
You're
so
online.
okay.
Everybody can see you out there.
Everybody can see us. All right. So speaking of climate change, I'm going to switch over and take over from Stephen. That's a climate change.
Go for it. It should be, I mean, honestly, it should be a recurring theme for all of us every time we talk about anything. That's the thing. If it's really that serious, if it's really that critical, if it's really an existential crisis, we should be talking about it and integrating it into everything we do.
That's true. And I hope that people do not only have in their minds now the COVID crisis, and that they also have in their minds the climate crisis, because this crisis will directly follow after COVID when we go on like we do it now. And so we hope, I really hope that we will fix that problem.
Yeah, hopefully.
And I'm happy about every idea that will help us to go this way.
And I got to say, one really nice thing about being a software developer, Apex or anything else, is that, let's face it, we are in the era of crises. We are going to have crisis after crisis after crisis. Even if we stop burning any fossil fuels today, you know, we're set for years of increasing misery. So the really nice thing is when we're dealing with all that stuff, we can say, oh, I'm going to go write some code. Oh, that's such a nice relief. I can escape from this world. And I like that escape better than escaping the television. Television is an escape that I think is a very dangerous one. At least when you're coding, you're active and engaged.
That's true. So thank you, Stephen, very much that we could do this interview. And I hope we will meet us again in the natural world anytime. But you are right.
You got to come here because I'm not going there.
But you are really right. For just a conference to fly thousands of kilometers, we can just meet online, and it's also okay. And it's getting better and better from technology side. So yeah, let's switch over to technology side.